Hey guys, hey everyone. So we are live right now, and while we're waiting for Jason, because I know we're doing this in partnership of MS and NMSI. And by the way, my name is Jed. I'm a Fiable intern. And while we're waiting for Jason, Anne is here, and she can answer your questions in the chat. So, um, yeah, we are live. So you can start, Anne.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Jason and I really weren't going to do any videos with y'all. We were going to, hold on one second, I'm so sorry. We were going to just sit and talk with y'all about anything that y'all might have, questions that y'all might have, things that y'all are concerned about. I know that, oh, I'm muted. Oh, can y'all hear me? Oh, never mind. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I am an AP teacher. I teach AP Bio in Houston, Texas, and I've been teaching AP Bio for 17 years. And yes, H-Time. And I have been an AP reader as well. This will be my 9th year. This will be a very interesting one. We're going to be doing it from our home, just like y'all taking y'all's tests from home. And so we were just wanting to sit and talk with y'all today since AP tests start on Monday. I know our AP test is not this Monday. Our AP test is the following Monday on the 18th at 1 p.m. And I say 1 p.m. only if you're Central Standard Time. They're most definitely with College Board, and those are some things that will pop up as we are gonna, as we get going later. We have some things that we do want to share with y'all just from our different screens, showing you if you haven't by chance been to the AP website and looking at that. I hope that you have. We do want to talk to you about that as well. But the AP test is kind of different this year, as hopefully y'all know. I hope that you have heard that. And that is the fact that the AP test is going to be only 45 minutes. So let's start at the beginning. And because I don't want to assume that you know any, that 10-part test. I don't want to assume that y'all know or don't know anything. So I'm going to start at the beginning and say that the test is a 45-minute test. You will be logging in. If for any reason you have not been getting emails from College Board, you do need to log in to College Board, which hopefully you've done an SAT test or that you have taken an AP test in a prior year, which means you have a username and password on the College Board's website. You need to log in there. Once you've logged in, you can actually go to the settings and you can change on the settings. You can first check to see what email your information is getting sent to. And once you've done that, you can change if you'd like to what emails you're getting things sent to. Good question. I will answer that in a little bit about how many questions you need to get to a 5 or is there a percentage. So after you have logged in, because I'm going to go through the basics with y'all first, and then I'm going to get to kind of the questions about the test. Once you have logged into College Board, if for some reason you're not getting the emails, check to see what email it's going to. After you've done that, then you also, if for some reason you still don't get emails from them, they did say go ahead and subscribe to them. There's a button that you can click, which we hate subscribing to anything online because we get junk from them. But it is important here because that means that you'll continue to get all the emails from College Board. If for some reason you're still not getting it 2 days before your test that you are supposed to take, you will get an email that is your e-ticket for the test. If you do not get your e-ticket, you need to go back online to College Board's website and you need to go ahead and you need to log in and your e-ticket will be there. Everybody will get a different e-ticket for every test that you take. So let's say when we take our test in Houston Central Standard Time, we're going to take it at 1 p.m. That means in Kazakhstan, they're going to be taking it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Every single person in the world is supposed to be taking the same AP test at the same exact time. They are doing that this year and this year only. We normally have different tests internationally than we do here in the States. But yeah, no kidding. I feel really bad for those people having to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. They are going to, for sure, have to wake up to do that. I feel bad for them. It's not a large percentage of people. I just went away and I don't know why I went away. It's not a large percentage of people, but it is for sure some people. After you have gotten your e-ticket on the day of the test, you need to log in 30 minutes beforehand. And the reason why is because College Board said, and the reason I'm saying all this is because I've watched several different, can we go on before? Yes, you should be able to go on before, but I don't think it's much more than 30 minutes because they specifically said, because there is a test before us, there's one at 11. And so the test at 1, yeah, what if the site crashes? And that's a very good question, Vanessa. They have specifically said that they will be making sure they have been practicing and got all this, that their servers can handle all of this. I sure hope they can. But at 30 minutes before, you need to log in. When you log in, what's going to happen is that they said that there's several security checkpoints that you have to go through to ensure that it's really you and not something else. I do understand about the concern. I'm very antsy and very concerned for my students as well, which is why I've had them go on. College Board right now has a simulation that you can go to and you can actually practice it. Yes, if for some reason it crashes or for some reason your computer shuts down or anything like that, and it's still within the time frame, you are still able to get back onto the computer and you can still continue your time. This is why it's so important. Once the 30 minutes starts, after that's over, the timer is going to, it's what they told us is that they're going to then, a screen's going to appear and that screen's going to have your question. And with that question, I personally, I will take a picture. I would take a picture with my phone just so that I have it there so that I know that it's there. They did say that you most definitely could print that off if you wanted to. So you have it, so you can print it. You will have 25 minutes from the time it starts. You will then have 25 minutes to type and compose your response. My advice is that you do a split screen. So half of your screen, so make it where it's not like a full screen. Half of your screen is going to be the question that you are going to be answering. Then the other half of your screen, I would have it as a Word document or as a Google Doc, because a Google Doc saves things consistently, like every 5 seconds, it consistently saves. The URL that is offered at the end of the exam that allows you to sign. Okay, I will talk about that as well. Oh, yes, thank you. There is a URL, and I'm going to talk about that too. And so then a split screen over here, I would be typing my response. And the reason why I would do Google Doc, or if you're going to do Word Doc, I would like after I type for a few minutes, I would then save it. I consistently save it. Then what I would do, the easiest way, because I'm one of those crazy people that I get scared about everything, I would then copy and paste it, because what's going to happen is that you're going to have your prompt, then there's going to be a box for you to copy it and to paste it in. So you're going to have over in your other screen, you're going to have where you're typing, then you're going to paste it over here. And the reason why I would do that is because I like to see what I've done, where you can choose to attach a document if you'd like to. The only thing with attaching is you can't see what you've attached. You can also, if you do it with your phone, because let's say all you have is your phone, that's fine. You can most definitely handwrite everything, and then you're able to take a picture with it and submit the picture. There is no image. Okay, good question, Vanessa. There will be no image that is needed. They do not want an image at all, because the questions that you're going to be asked, question 1 and question 2, which is like question 4, you will not be drawing a graph. Question 1, there will be a graph and a chart probably there. You do not need to be drawing one. You are going to be answering questions based upon that graph and or chart. So you won't have to do that. You're only going to be writing, okay? So that 25 minutes, you're going to then be writing, doing whatever. If you're typing it, great. Then at the end of that 25 minutes, there's going to be a box at the bottom, and it's literally going to say 5 minutes left, and it's going to change from being black to being red. And when it goes red, then that tells you you have 5 minutes to submit your answer. Don't wait. And I know it's the panic, but the thing is, 25 minutes is a long time. It is such a long time to write your question. Make sure you're okay with it. Feel comfortable about it. Then you have 5 minutes to copy and paste it. Put it into the box. You'll be able to see it show up. Once you've done that, then you're going to be able to say submit. When you hit click submit, it's actually going to say, wait, do you want to submit? Are you sure you want to submit? You cannot go back. Then you're going to click submit, and then you're done. You have to wait until it's technically 30 minutes completely. So let's say 20 minutes in, you're done, you're good, you don't want any more. You're going to copy paste yours into the box. You're done. You can click submit. You will not be able to go on to the next question because everybody in the in the world will not be able to get to see the next question until that 30 minutes has passed. So when that 30 minutes is passed, okay, and let me finish this thought, and then I'll answer some questions that have popped up. There was another one. Yes, very, very, very good question about the APID. You must at the top of everything that you do, you must put your APID, hit enter, put your initials, then start writing. Okay. I don't care if you write it. I don't care if you copy and paste it. I don't care if you attach it as a Word document. You must put your APID, then you must put your initials, then you will put your response. Now that will be for question 1. That's 25 minutes plus the 5-minute submission. Please, y'all, at 5 minutes when that countdown goes red, you need to be like, okay, I need to start my submission process, because here's the deal. It goes 0, 0, and you didn't click submit, you're done. You don't even get to do that again. Like, it's over. You get no points for that question. The next question, which is why at the end of the 25 minutes, you then need to start submitting. Copy, paste it, attach a Word document. If you're using your phone, go to take a picture of it and then click and then submit it. Like, you've got to do that, which is another reason why you really need to practice the simulation. And we'll put up the, in a little while, I will make sure that either Jason or we put up the link to go do the simulation, because it's a really good idea. And there's Mr. Jason right now. Yeah, rock on. So I'm going to let Jason introduce himself real quick, and then I'm going to talk about the second question. Go ahead, Jason.
Sure. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Yeah, I actually logged in as Fiveable. So I've been trying to answer student questions in the chat.
Nice.
But my name is Jason Walker, and I've been doing AP biology for about 20 years, and I like Anne, am an AP reader, and I'm very excited to answer any of the questions that you have.
Awesome. Okay. So a question to answer. If the timer runs out, but you have already clicked submit, that is okay. That what they told us is it will run in the background and the next question will come up and it will be completely fine. So you will have the 25 minutes, you will be conducting your response, then you will copy paste, you will attach a document, you will take a picture, you will click submit. Then it will say you're waiting until the next question comes up. The next question will come up and it will do the exact same thing. You're going to put your APID, you're going to put your your initials, you're going to put your response, and then you're going to hit submit. The same idea. there will be an e-ticket for every test that you take. So you will not have one for you won't just have one, you will have several of them. So as long as you have clicked submit before the 25, it's technically 25 minutes plus the 5-minute submission. Yes, I know that's 30 minutes. Please do not think that you have 30 minutes to actually write, because you've got to click submit. So please make sure at the end that you have clicked submit, and then they will go ahead and you'll go into your next room. Then you will have 15 minutes to do the next question, plus another 5-minute submission with that one. You want to add anything, Jason, just about the conducting a response, the typing, any of that kind of stuff?
So a few things that Anne has probably
Go ahead.
said.
It's okay to reiterate it.
Was the deal is that they've said that if you choose to write on the first question and then take a picture of your writing, you must do that on the second question as well. You can't type on one and write on the other. The next thing, and I've seen several questions in the chat regarding this. Yes, if you have if your internet goes out, if your power goes out, or they have actually even gone as far as saying if you do not feel at the end of that test, even though you've completed the test, if you don't feel like that your testing environment was conducive for you to be successful, then there's going to be a URL at the very end that you can click on, and then you can just say, hey, this is the reason that I need to do the retest. The one thing that they did call out that will get your request for a retake to be denied is that you just said, hey, I ran out of time.
Right.
So like, and I saw a question earlier, someone asked, can you write within the 5-minute period? So let's say on the first, question is 25 minutes long. After that 25 minutes, there's a 5-minute, the little timer up there is going to go red. And you do have 5 minutes to submit that. Can you write during that 5 minutes? Yes. If in that 5 minutes you don't submit your work, it takes none of it. There's no saving. There's no anything. So therefore, you can write, but the suggestion is write as much and as well as you possibly can in that 25 minutes, and then just submit.
Yes,
submit.
Totally.
The key here is that they are, from what I understand, they are going to be putting more than you can answer. They're going to be like more parts to the question than you can feasibly answer. So it's okay that you don't answer every part of the question. You just do the best that you possibly can in the 25 minutes. And when that 5 minutes comes, make sure within that 5 minutes that you submit, because they very staunchly stated you can leave parts of a question blank and still make a 5. So, Anne, did you freeze, or are you just frozen on my computer? Yeah, she did freeze. Okay, no problem. Let me see if there's, let me see. Let me roll through the. Are you unfrozen now? We got you back.
Oh, okay. Who froze? I don't know who froze. I froze. Oh, me.
You froze.
Oh,
You
okay.
froze.
Dang it. Okay. I put up the College Board. So this is where you need to go to check to make sure about your e-ticket, about getting the information. If y'all have not done that demo, please go do the demo. I'm about to post that for y'all. I cannot tell you how important it is. I made my students do like a whole little thing for me, but this demo, you can do it as many times as you want. You do not have to log in. I just put it up there. It is not anything that you have to log in. It is just a demo. Go through and do it once where you're doing the picture. Go through, do it once, and do it where you're attaching a document. Do it where you're doing the copy and paste. See which one you would like to do, but for sure, please go through and do the demo. I cannot tell you how much better I felt about it for myself, for my students, than when they actually got. You have original accommodations. Okay. Oh, somebody asked about accommodations. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if they're
demo and the simulation are the same thing. Sorry.
If they cannot write and there are no English speakers in the house to scribe for them, what do they do?
Okay, that they need to go. Now, is this an accommodation? Which that was somebody had asked already. Grammarly has to go. Yes, most definitely. If there is nobody, do you have already accommodations? If you do already have accommodations, that will already be taken care of for you. If you do not, you've got to contact your school. That is something, unfortunately, that as an individual, we can't help you with, but you need to contact your school so that they can get the accommodations that you need and that they can call College Board about that. Most definitely ASAP. Please do that. I missed some questions.
How many points do we need for each score? I know you said you were going to talk about that. I think she's frozen again. All right, so let me see if I can answer that. So again, it is yes, Anne, you are frozen. So again, they're going to have more parts on each of the two questions than you can honestly feasibly answer. The one thing in regard to points that the 25 point question is going to be worth like 60%, 15 15-minute questions can be like 40%, and so that's kind of how those will go as far as points and percentages. However, what we don't know as far as like each part being worth a certain amount of points is how many parts they're going to have. You know, the 25-minute question could have, let's say, could have like A, B, C, or D. It could be A through G, you know, and so you must delete Grammarly. Yeah, so that's a little bit hard to understand or to predict, but just the key is you're going to have 25 minutes to answer the first one, 15 minutes for the second one, and you just need to write the whole time, do the very best that you can, and know that there more than likely is going to be there's going to be time for you to there's going to be parts that you're not going to be able to answer, and that's okay. That's okay. This is not going to be like past exams where it's like, okay, they asked me to do two things, it's going to be worth 2 points, that type of thing. My best guess is that they're going to have to zhuzh. They're going to have to modify how they're doing that. And I know that Ann and I are both reading online. Dang right. We're both reading online. And so, I mean, and honestly, Ann and I don't really know how they're going to manipulate the scoring guidelines for this. We don't know what the questions are going to look like. We don't know what the scoring guidelines. We're all kind of up in the air a little bit as well. So, can we Google like definitions and stuff to help? I'm going to say that they said you can have your internet up, but not social media. So So ultimately, it's they just don't want you working with someone else. I think the best idea is just to have your cheat sheet over to the side. It's definitely not something that you're going to want to have open. Like, you don't want like 15 pages worth of stuff. You don't want to spend all your time just like looking through stuff, but it is open note, open book, that type of thing. But you just want to make sure that you do not spend all of your time searching for answers. So, and now that we've got you back, can you confirm?
Okay, can y'all see me at all?
Yes.
Or am I still gone?
Yes. No, we see you. Can you hear us?
Okay, good. Is Jason there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sweet. Because I can't see him. I'm here and I can't see you or hear you.
Okay.
This is horrible.
Okay. Yeah, we're both visible.
Well,
Okay.
that's good. I guess I'm not going to talk because I don't know if Jason's going to talk. I'll answer questions.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, is Jason?
Yeah, so that's
Are you there, Jason? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What
Okay.
the heck?
I can't see you, but that's fine. As long as we can hear each other and everybody can hear us.
That's great. So you can't see me?
No, it's okay. That's okay. Can you confirm about the well, maybe you just did confirm about like you shouldn't use Google for
Right.
like a definition or
I
whatever.
was. That's right. No, they told us that I do remember hearing that some of the security stuff that we're not going to be able to know about. When y'all submit those questions, they're going to run those against cheating things through the internet, and they're going to check to see if they match up with anything. So it is in your best interest to not use the internet. I understand if you would like to use your notes or things like that just to verify something with yourself. But actually going to the internet, if you do that, you have to be so extremely cautious, because what could end up happening is it could look as that you were cheating. If you find something that would help you, then you need to completely reword it, redo, and not let it be anything like what you just found. What we were told, though, is that it's not gonna help you. That they're gonna be asking you questions based upon scenarios, and that you wouldn't necessarily be able to answer those questions or be able to find help for those. Do not, for anything, get on social media. Do not talk to anyone. I would honestly limit anything kind of I would not communicate with anyone. Absolutely, because that's considered cheating. You need to make sure 100% that you are going through and that you are looking at the questions and trying to do them completely without any kind of internet help. What do you believe they're going to ask us? I know that several viewers started to get in there. I'm not sure where y'all are now. Go ahead, Jason. What do you want to add something?
Sure. Yeah, I can. I can answer that. So one thing that I would do definitely is dig into the science practices. So what that means is, being that this is an open book, open note test, and you can have like some cheat sheets or notes to the side. What they're going to ask you to do is to be able to apply that. So here's what I mean by science practices. So you are most likely going to have to I would be able to design an experiment to test a certain hypothesis based on data. Now it's going to be tied to biology. It's going to be tied to the content, but it's being more about, can you design an experiment? Can you analyze a graph and derive a conclusion from that? Can you I doubt that they're going to have math. I hate to say that, but I doubt that they're going to have a whole lot of
basic.
Yes. But it's about, can you make connections between two things? Can you design an experiment? Can you analyze a graph? You are going to have to look at maybe not just a graph. So a graph is a type of model, but they could, most likely you're going to have a lot of pictures, models, and stuff that you are going to you're going to have to evaluate. You're going to have to, like, in your mind or like type out a response where if you change this part of the model, what changes, or how does that change the model? I would be again, I don't know what the questions are. Chi-square is going to take a good amount of time, and so if they do have anything about chi-square, my guess is that they're going to give you they might give you like a table of data, give you the chi-square value, and then very quickly you might be able to like do n-1 your degrees of freedom, look at the chi-square value, and just look at a table and like be able to write out like, yes, this does. I either can or I cannot reject my hypothesis, or reject the null. So yeah.
What does it say here? Should we focus on answering all of the questions, not as good, or don't answer all of the questions? I mean, if you do not know the answer to it, I would definitely wait till the end to try to do that. You should try to do for sure the best you can on each one of those. I think with the amount of time you have, I think that y'all will be able to go through and do all of that. And what someone just posted right there, the formula chart, yeah, you don't need to, Raina, you don't need to Google it. You just go ahead and print this out or have it saved on your desktop and have it minimized. And the same thing is true with the checklist. If you do not have the checklist, I will put the link up for the checklist. Give me a second. And the checklist is that the same exact checklist for all of the AP tests. It's not one that is different. So that way, once you've done it the first time, especially if you have a test the first week, then you will not need to do that again. I'm just trying to find the link for the checklist. I'm so sorry. If somebody gets it before me, good. But let me find it. There we go. All right. Sorry, that took longer than I needed it to. Okay, so can be similar. Yes, most definitely. I think the past exam questions will be very similar to what we have seen in the past. Number 1 and 2 from the past will be very similar to number 1. Questions 4 through 8 that we've had in the past will be similar. They're going to be slightly different though to that. Can you only have 2 tabs open? No, you can have more tabs open. You could even, if you wanted to, just to be safe, you could have another browser open. What you need to, for sure, they highly recommend using Google Chrome as your browser. If you don't want Google Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, but do not use Internet Explorer. If you're on a Mac, Safari is fine, but do not use Internet Explorer. The practice experimental FRQs usually test a hypothesis and show the graph. Was that a question? Yes, it was. A husk is correct because I've seen what the. Not sure what that one's asking. The practice experimental FRQs usually test a hypothesis and show the results in the graphs. Yes, the following parts usually ask a predict question and ask a general question about the different aspects or appliance of the questions. Do I assume? Oh, no, don't always assume that the hypothesis is correct. There are times that it has not been correct, but most of the time, yeah, it is the same. Do you want to answer the difference between a null and alternative?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So yeah, so a null hypothesis is going to say, so let's say that you have an alternative hypothesis that says that if I walk into a room and I turn on the light, I'm going to be able to see. The null hypothesis states that, so turning on the light is your independent variable. Null hypothesis just says that the independent variable is not going to have any effect on the results. So that's why when we do things like chi-square, if we derive a chi-square value that is less than the critical value in the chi-square table, then we say that there's not enough statistical evidence to say that we can reject the null hypothesis, right? So yeah, the null hypothesis is basically the independent variable doesn't have an effect on the results, and the alternative hypothesis says that it does. If I turn on the light, which is my independent variable, I'm going to be able to see better. Yep. Water potential questions have shown up on free response questions before. I've seen a lot of, I've seen ones where they have to like do some of the math in and around that, which you probably will not have to do on this. They really have structured this from what they've told us, where they just really want you to be able to describe and explain and most of all justify what you're describing and explaining. There could be some biotech on there because that's in Unit 6, for sure.
So the positive control, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, on that. Somebody asked about that. A positive control would be that it did not get the experimental treatment, but it was, so like if we were testing germination, that they were still germinating, but they had not been germinated in whatever other fluid, maybe if we were testing germination, whereas a negative control receives no treatment at all.
So, let me add to that. So,
okay.
So a positive and a negative control. So let's just say that you, let's say that you add a drop of substance A and a drop of substance B into like some wells. Okay. So a positive and negative control is if you add that second drop and it is of one or two substances, basically the positive control tells you if the independent variable shows you, or if the independent variable does have an effect, this is the color you're going to have, or this is what it looks like. A negative control shows you what a negative result would look like. So sometimes it's not just a matter of, well, this one got the independent variable and this one did not. It's you have to be able to set up either maybe it's color or maybe it's structure or whatever, but if you have to be able to know if the independent variable did or did not have an effect, right? And so the positive control means that it did, and maybe it turns black. and the negative control that where you did not, where the independent variable did not have an effect, maybe that's red, right? And so then you run your experiment and you find out that it turned red. We go, okay, that matches my negative control, so I know the independent variable did not have an effect.
I'm pulling up something. I wasn't listening to you. I went on, was looking. I was going to show them what the two questions look like.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to share my screen real quick if I can. Hello, share. Oh, I can't do that. That doesn't work right. Okay, apparently, I don't know. Maybe I can't share my screen. Somebody had asked, let me go back to, oh geez, you'd answered about biotech. Should we write in full sentences? Yes, I would most definitely write in full sentences, or as we like to call them, semi-complete sentences. Just don't answer single sentence or single letter or single word. Both of them are most definitely experiments and data. They're both going to be experimental designed questions. And then do you know the results beforehand? Does who know the results beforehand? None of us, unless you're talking about the experimental data. Yes, on the experimental data, a lot of time they tell you exactly what has happened in there first, and then they change it up. And they want you to see what's happening in that situation. Any idea on which units we should focus? No. Because I really do feel that there's going to be, in the questions, there's going to be many units encompassed in one question. So I don't think that looking at or not looking at a unit is a good idea. I think that you should look over all of them. Go ahead. If you do the sentence need to flow. No, they do not need to flow nicely. Like in A Pusher Lang, we're not flowy. We're not bubbly. We are literally just going to be answering the question. So task verbs just need to be identified. Yes. Oh man, somebody told you that. Yes, technically identified does mean just one word. I don't like that idea though. Huh?
It did not used to. They used to be a very a real stickler for everything had to be in incomplete sentences.
Sentenced. Yes. Yes.
Let me. There's a few follow-up questions about the positive and negative. So it says, so Angela said, are positive and negative more specific descriptions rather than just saying control? Or are they different? So basically, positive control and negative control are both controls. Right. One shows you what happens to the result if the independent variable does have an effect. That's the positive control. Negative control shows you what a negative result would look like. And so therefore, anything that you do, any experimental data that you get, that allows you to know whether it's positive or whether it's negative. So yeah, so they're actually both control. They're just two different types.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, if it's not in the rubric, it will not be counted unless it is something that is where they say that you could give several examples of something. And on the rubric, they only give 2 or 3 examples, and then they would say other examples like, but no, if it's not on the rubric, it will not be counted. And how they have told us that in the past, how that's fair, is that every single one of you will be based on that same rubric. And so that way, even if you're like, but that's right, that's real stuff, it doesn't matter that everybody's getting graded that way. We as readers, this is going to be very interesting this year because we've always been together to do this. We're going to have to be doing this separately, but from anything I can gather, it's going to be exactly the same as it's been in the past, where we still are going to have to follow the rubric exactly. And it's not like we're going to be able to deviate from the rubric either. There will be people that we can ask that are above us that will be able to help us. That if we get stuck on something, to help in the sense of making sure, do we count that or not count that? But we will be taught before we actually start grading whether we will or will not count certain things. Do graders correct based on the right answers? One right answer rubric or every sounds good? I don't understand exactly what that means. Do graders correct based off of one right answer rubric or every thing that sounds good to do that correct? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, so as a reader, we actually have the autonomy to make our cases with the table leaders if we think that even though maybe a buzzword that is in the rubric wasn't used, but you have done a very good job of describing that, sometimes we can give you that point. And every reader every year takes every single test and thinks of it as an individual student, and every question as in every question, and we will fight for you to get the points that we believe you deserve. That's correct.
Definitely. Should we, another question, if we describe but don't give the word, it depends upon the situation, unfortunately, as if you will get it or not. If it is something that still means the same thing, then yes, you probably will get it. This is the biggest thing they tell us. We cannot assume anything. If I am reading it and I'm having to assume that you meant that, I can't give you credit for it. That's the biggest deal. So we really have to be careful, because like with my babies at school, I can be like, oh, but I know when I normally do this that Jasper knows exactly this, and I know this is what he means. I can't give you credit for that. So you have to say it. You have to speak it out. Didn't College Board say our teachers will also? Yes, your College Board, after this, they will get to see your answers as well. They won't get to do anything but look at them. It's not like they can grade them or anything, but they will come out immediately, or 48 hours, 24 hours after the fact. Your teachers will get sent your responses as well. So that's kind of cool, because that's never happened before. You have to answer it in ABCD format. It's best to. Only because it makes it easier for the reader to grade that, but you do not have to. The biggest thing is, I mean, as long as in this time it's not going to be anywhere else, it's going to be in that box, or it's going to be in a Word document. As long as it's there, we'll read it and we'll try to find you and get you the points that we can. It's in your best interest to just answer it as ABCD. And now that y'all are typing it, you really have the space to put it and to put as much as you want wherever you want. So I would do that. Yeah, we start grading. You answered that question. Describe and explain. Okay. I had a friend tell me something, and I want to say it to y'all, and I want to see if it makes any sense to y'all. That they gave it to me, and I want to see, because I always, okay, so describe and explain. If someone asks you to list your friends, then you would list the name. When someone asks you to describe your friends, you would say, my husband, Chris, and he's my best friend, and I met him at school, and et cetera, et cetera. If someone asks you to explain why you're best friends, then you would use evidence as to why he is your best friend, because he takes care of me, because he helps with the dishes, because he helps take out the take out the trash and do the laundry, and he supports me. And so that's how I really like it. So if you're listing, you're just actually identifying, you're just putting them down. If you're describing, you're giving the parts of what it is. If you're explaining, then you're giving the information behind it, or the research behind, or how that then becomes the part that it is, if that makes any sense. How would you say describe and explain, Jason?
I think that's I would agree with your friend.
It's very hard, I feel, to
and complete disclosure, complete honesty. It depends on what on the question, and it depends on who is interpreting that when they make
that's true.
the rubric.
Right. No, I agree with you completely. I'll give you the definition. Definition for describe. Provide relevant characteristics of a specified topic. Okay. Explain. Provide information about how or why a relationship, process, blah, 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 to support or qualify a claim. Explain typically refers to analyzing the relationship. Analyzing the relationship. Whereas describe, you're going to tell me that it's blue, that it's a circle, that it is, but then explaining, you're going to tell me why is it a circle? What is going on to make it a circle? So like if it was a protein, because of the R groups in the tertiary structure that have formed, that when they bonded together, they formed into a circular pattern. That's why they're a circle. That would be explaining it. Whereas describing would have just been telling me it is a circle. I like that. Should we keep our answers shorter? See, okay, short and sweet are fine if it answers the question. My students always struggle with this. They've started it and then they leave off the end part every single time. You have got to think, when I answered that question, is there anything else about that particular question that is involved that I could have answered? Don't start telling me why ATP is the shape that it is and why ATP is made and how it's made. That's probably not what it's asking. If it's asking you about a specific component about something, you need to make sure you answer that part. Brain regurgitation. Yes, I totally agree with Jason as to what he said. Okay. Other questions. I feel like all we have done is we have just answered. Is your doggy coming into the room?
Oh, can you see me? Yeah, he's crying. But I was asking.
Why?
I don't know.
What kind of dog? Which one is this one?
This is the 180-pound Great Dane.
Oh, I got it.
That's if they have to describe a question like this. Why gene A?
So if they describe why gene A is in all tissues. Okay, describe. Let me think about that before I say yes or no. Relevant characteristics is what we need to have there. Relevant characteristics. On glycolysis,
and like an explain question. Let's see.
Provide reasoning is like justify. Yes, it is. Providing reasoning is justifying.
Yeah.
I would say that that would work well. The other thing that you could possibly, depending upon what the question is there, Angela, is that you possibly could say something about from evolution and the fact that all living things will be going through glycolysis. So even bacteria who don't have the ability to do other things, they're going to be able to do, that's like first part, because they don't have a mitochondria. So they can't do cell respiration, but they can still do glycolysis. But that would only been if they go into that. But provide equal adjustment, equal support your answer. Yes, I agree with Jason on that. I do not think you would go into more on detail on that question from Angela.
Because it's just described.
Because it does just say describe. It does not say explain.
Yeah. What I did like about your friend's explanation was that if you're asked to explain anything, you need to provide evidence.
Oh no, is it me who's frozen again?
Do we justify based on the scenario they give us? Yes. Your evidence should be directly tied to whatever they have alluded to in the question stem or the model or the graph or the table or whatever that's where you go to get that evidence. That's true. Yes, Anne, I think that it's you. Are you on dial-up? So as far as the email, it would be the email that is tied to your College Board account. So you should be able to log into your College Board account using that email. Do you know? So if that's the email that was turned in, if that's the email that you have, then if it's the school email, then absolutely, that's the one. And you might go to, let's see. Here she is.
No, I'm not on dial-up.
Okay. So can you give better clarification than I just did around Laura's question? For the exam, what email or account should they take the exam on? Where would they go to
Okay.
look at that?
I don't think you were there when when I said that. Okay, so you need to go, and I put that link in a while back, and let me go find it, and I'll put it back in again. But you need to go to College Board's website, and when you go to College Board's website, you need to, and this isn't just the normal College Board website. This is the one about like your college account and all of that kind of stuff. And the reason why you need to go there is because when you have taken an AP test, maybe in the past, when you have taken a SAT test, you all have you have this one thing that's there, and it has never changed. And so you need to go to myap.collegeboard.org. I just put it in there. You need to go there, and when you log in, and if you did AP Classroom at all this year, it's the same thing. But when you go there, when you go to settings, it will tell you what email that you've been using. You can change it though. And that's the biggest thing, because that's where your e-ticket's going to be sent. But like I said before, your e-ticket, you do not have to get the email to get your e-ticket, but you have to be able to log into myap.collegeboard.org. If you cannot get in there, you need to call College Board pronto. And I don't even know if you'll be able to call them today anymore, but you need to make sure that you do. Yes, take the AP test. It will still benefit you, because if in college, you more than likely are going to have a science credit. So hello, this will be your science credit, and you can move on. More AP courses will go to online. Who said that? What was the question?
So the question was, do you think that after this experience, College Board will decide to start testing online? My best guess is that we're going to see some sort of blended model. I think some of them will go back to back to paper-based, but I think some of them will stay online.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the AP was online, I believe.
And I don't remember which ones. I think it was like maybe did he say Chinese, or there were like 2 or 3 that were already on. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my best guess. I think some of them will go back to paper-based. Some of them will stay. We'll just have to see. Because I will tell you that the College Board is saving a tremendous amount of money on not sending thousands of people up to Kansas City to score these things.
But they did tell us though that we would definitely have an in-face person read next year. Trevor Packer, he told us no question, if we can, we will. So I agree with Jason on that whole blended idea, that's what they'll probably go to.
Got it.
For sure. All right. Do y'all have other questions? I think we're actually over time. What time are we supposed? I don't even know. Are we hour, 2 hours?
No, we're 6 minutes over, but that's if it's okay.
Okay. Y'all have any other questions though that we can answer for y'all? Because it is getting down to the wire, and I know that some of you've got tests Monday, and so we for sure want to. When will scores be released? July, yeah.
Yeah, I figured July.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, good. We're the technical.
July will be when they release it. They usually finalize them in. They usually release them like late July. They'll finalize them in like middle of August for sure. But with the online reading and everything being online, and especially with it being shorter, I think that they can probably get that out faster.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm hoping.
Any tips, tricks for studying? No. Study. Sorry.
I think at this point I would go back to past exams. I would go to textbooks. And one of the great study techniques that I've always had kids do is when you look at a graph, when you look at a table, can you explain what's going on?
Right.
And it's way more than just like at this point, I wouldn't necessarily like worry about learning a bunch of content. You need to practice applying that. You need to look at graphs, you need to look at tables, you need to design experiments. Yeah. So this is going to be an application test. Oh, she's frozen again. Okay. Let's see if I can answer. Should we answer the easier questions to get the points, or should we spend more time on the larger, more point questions? So, I think the thing that you do absolutely need to do is to go through and find those parts of the question that you feel the most confident about and spend a good amount of time writing those. And then if you have time on the parts that you did not feel as confident, then give your best shot and prioritize those parts by I feel better on this one than this one on this one over here. So let me give this one my best shot. So ultimately, my advice would be to instead of doing like halfway effort on 5 parts, if you can give great effort on 3 of the 5 parts, then do the great effort, right? It's more important to do a really great job on the parts that you can answer than try to get an answer down for everything. So I'm taking the AP biology exam by myself because my school doesn't offer it. What should I study from? I think Khan Academy is very good. You could go to BozemanScience.com. There's some good videos in and around, and I would concentrate, if you go to BozemanScience.com, I would concentrate real hard on the videos that are on the 7 or 8 science, or 6 or 7 science practices. That's what I would do. And then I would use any of those videos from BozemanScience.com that you, on those topics that you feel from units 1 through 6 that you feel that you need the most help on. At this point, if I were you, I would concentrate on the things that I feel less confident on, and I would just not worry about the things that I really did genetics well, but maybe gene regulation, I need some help on. That's what I would concentrate on. What do you think would be the best to put on your study guide? So based on what I said earlier, I do not believe that you should just like you should have like 21 pages of exhaustive stuff. I think that if you went through, all right, so Ann just texted me and she can't get back on, so that's we'll just say goodbye to her, and I'll stay on for a few more minutes. No worries, we love you, Ann. We will. Okay, so what I would do is I would go into like each unit, and I would try to pull in as many, like you try to pull like concepts. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull up something for you. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So what I would do is I would just go into each of those units, and I would just and you could almost just for those of you who have textbooks, you could almost go in there and just find like 10 concepts out of that particular chapter, that particular unit, and then start trying to see if you can find connections between those, and then start trying to find connections between concepts and vocabulary words from multiple units. So for instance, if I were to ask you what the connection between photosynthesis and natural selection was, then what you would want to do, you would want to explain that, maybe you go through the route of, okay, there's three main types of photosynthesis. There's C3, C4, and CAM photosynthesis. And if you put those 3 different types of plants that practice those 3 different types of photosynthesis out in the desert, only the CAM photosynthetic plants are going to survive. Well, that's natural selection. They were born being able to practice that type of photosynthesis, but only one of them was able to survive. And so what I would do as to be able to study for that is I would just start trying to do that. I think that and digging into the science practices. Come on, let's go, bud. No, okay. Instead of, sorry. So I think that and digging into the science practice is going to be the thing that's most worth your while. I would, again, as far as like a cheat sheet or like something to have beside you, I really think that it's going to be more important than to have like your formula sheet beside you, and then you might even have like those 10 to 15 main concepts or vocabulary words, and if you want to put down some phrasing or maybe even a definition for some of those. Basically, you're not going to have time to look stuff up. What you are going to have time to do is to look over and go, okay, now I remember the definition to that, or I remember what they're talking about here, and then you be able to explain it. So, yeah. Let's see. What units can we find the science practice? So the science practices are in every unit. So the science practices are. Let me pull those up just a second here. Okay, so this is actually, I just pulled this up online, but this is actually has been reworked just a skosh. So a year before this year, we had 7 science practices. This year we have 6, but this is basically what I'm talking about, right? So like science practice 1 is all about the student can use representations and models to communicate scientific phenomena, right? So you see student actions there. You can create a model, you can describe a model, you can refine a model. Then science practice 2 is you be able to do like math appropriately. And then science practice 3 is you being able to ask, you can pose scientific questions, you can refine someone else's scientific questions, you can evaluate other scientific questions. Science practice 4, you can see that it's you can design an experiment, you can implement a protocol for collecting data. Science practice 5, once you have that data, you're able to evaluate that data. Science practice 6 on this document shows you once you have that, once you've analyzed that data, you start asking yourself, how does this fit into already accepted theories and laws and what we've seen before, right? If it's really way off, then maybe I had some outliers or whatever in my data. And then again, pardon me, again, science practice 7 on this is all about making connections. Can you connect photosynthesis and natural selection? That type of thing. So, yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, units 7 and 8 are not on this exam. Let's see. Do you think we will need to know famous experiments? No, I don't. They're not going to hold you accountable for like how we got to our knowledge, like the history, like all the Rosalind Franklin, Watson and Crick, that type of thing. Yes. So let's see. You find that. Okay, so I just put a link to this document that I was looking at with the science practices. So you can click on that. And again, the science practices are a little bit different in the new version, but basically what they did is they took basically what they did is they took these 7 and they just scrunched them down into 6. We didn't do many labs in my school. Do you think I should try to learn them on my own? What I would do is in preparation for the test, I would just go online and then just you should be able to find. Let's do this. Biology lab manual. Internet's running a little slow. Okay. All right. So here is a link that will take you to a PDF version of the lab manual. And what I would do is I would just kind of, you want to look at all 13 labs. Actually, you only want to look at the labs that are associated with with units 1. You don't want to do any ecological or evolutionary labs. You will not be held responsible for that. But I think looking at the other labs will be beneficial. And just basically look at like what is it that they're trying to find? How did they collect data? And then like what other variables could you test based on that protocol? So really for this exam with only these 2 questions, it's going to be around, can you design an experiment to test that particular to test that particular hypothesis. Let's see. Sorry for the odd type of question, but is it possible to plagiarize from a book? I was going to use a Princeton review book for help if I needed it. So would it harm me if I copied a definition? Yes, it will. So you need to make sure that every single thing that you write in your answer is your own words. So it's not. So it's fine if you look down at like there's a definition, but you need to then turn around and put that in your own words. They're going to be running your answers through plagiarism software, and they're going to be able to flag that. So, yep. Don't plagiarize anything. Give me 1 second. My dog is freaking out. Hold on a second. Okay. All right, let's see. Cool. What other questions do you have? Is there a limit to how many pages we can type? I know there's 5-page limit for handwriting. I don't think that there's going to be a limit. I think that they're going to allow you to write for the 25 minutes or the 15 minutes. Do you have any idea what the score ranges might be? The College Board is not going to be, so full disclosure, in years past, what they have done is they've taken everybody's score and they have put them all from like top to bottom, and they have asked, and they've kind of just said like, here's the top score all the way down to the bottom score. Where are my 5s? Where are my 4s? Where are my 3s? And that type of thing. They were very clear that that's not what they're going to do this year. What they're going to do is if you earn the points, then you get that. So it's the reason why they're not going to mandate you answer every question to get a 5. My prediction, and I think it's okay for me to tell you this, and again, this is just my prediction. This is just Jason Walker here. I think that as long as students are really trying and they're putting down and they're answering the question, I think that the number of 3s, 4s, and 5s will go up compared to last year. Especially being that this is I'm predicting to be more like application based rather than like content based. So it's going to be very heavy on analyzing graphs, designing experiments, and analyzing tables, data that you have in a table, analyzing those results and that type of thing. So, yep. Yeah. So let's see. So as far as like equations and formulas that you might need, so what I did is I just went into the chat and I clicked on the equations and formula chart. So I think that I don't think you're actually going to have to calculate anything. They were very clear that if a student did not have a calculator available to them, they would be able to do the rudimentary math on a piece of paper and a pencil, right? And so it's not that you're not gonna have to calculate like standard deviation, standard error, but like if you looked at a graph and it had standard error, the mean bars, you would need to know what that means. You would need to know that that if the standard error bars between two bars are do not overlap, then that means they're significantly different than each other than if they do overlap. That type of thing. You're not going to have to know anything on rate or growth. Or Simpson's diversity index. You will not have to do anything for that. All of that is ecology. I would be familiar with the water potential. And again, it's going to be more important that you know what like, for instance, the difference between pressure potential and solute potential are, and rather than probably, and if they may give you like a student calculates the water potential to be this. What does this mean for this particular models? And then the model could just be like a model cell sitting in a beaker of a particular solution that has a particular molarity, that type of thing. And so like applying that. Yeah. So while I believe that you will need this just as a reference, I really will be very surprised if you actually have to calculate anything. So let's talk. Okay, wait. Can you expand on the standard error thing? Yeah. So standard error is let's see. Let me see if I can find an example real quick. Hold on just a second. Just so I can show you. Okay. So what you see here between experiment 1 and experiment 2. So what they have on there is you have the bars for control and treated on each graph, right? So the top part of that is going to be your mean, right? And so what the bars tell you is the standard error above and below the mean, right? So this can be plus or minus 1 standard error. According to this picture right here, this is plus or minus 1 standard error, the mean. And so what you can see on the left is that if you compare the standard error, the mean bars from the control to the treated, you see that they do not overlap, right? The top of the treated is underneath the bottom of the control. So what we could say is that the control, that the independent variable, whatever that is, I know the independent variable had a significant difference on the results, right? But if you look over here in experiment 2, you can see that the standard error, the mean bars for the control versus the treated, they overlap. So what that means is that even though these two bars are not even with each other, there's not evidence to show that they are significantly different from each other, right? So that's what I mean by if you look at a graph and you see standard error, the mean bars. Let's see. Advice for the final 9 days. I think at this point, I would go to bozemanscience.com. I would look at the science practice videos. Then I would go to Khan Academy, and then I would try to engage in any of those free courses on the topics that you feel less confident on. The other thing that I would do is to dig into units 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I would identify vocabulary words and or concepts, and I would even if I had to look it up in a book or using the Googler, whatever, find a connection between that. It's one of the things that makes biology so cool is that literally everything that you study, everything we talk about in biology relates to everything else that we study or talk about in biology. So and by finding that connection, most likely you're going to have to make other connections to get there. And so it's just going to make the content it's just going to make it come alive and be a little bit richer for you. Higher solute is lower water potential. That is true. So water potential is, I like to think of it, it's the potential. The higher the water potential, the more likely I'm going to give away water. And if you have a high solute potential, then you're very, very hypertonic. Hypertonic wants to take in water. So that's right. All right. Any last questions? So taking in water decreases water potential, right? So I think that going to be the opposite of that. It's going to be the opposite. The more water, the more hypotonic that you are making yourself, the higher the water content in there. If you have more water than your surroundings or what's next to you, then that has increased your water potential. So let's just say that you have something you take something with like, let's say 50% salt, 50% water. You put that in pure water, right? That is going to, the cell or whatever that you just put in the pure water, it's going to suck in water. And it's always going to have less water potential than the pure water. So that is, but it's not a hard and fast. It's not a hard and fast rule that taking on water decreases water potential. I could come up with a scenario where you still have less than your surroundings, but maybe you now have when you take in water, now maybe you have a higher water potential to something else. Yeah. Don't get too much in the weeds there. What are some tricks you have for quickly finding what kind of trait pedigrees are, like X-linked, Y-linked, that type of thing? So X-linked is going to be more males are going to have it, right? If it's Y-linked, only males will have it because females don't have Y. And the reason why X-linked more men have it, because a lot, not all, but a lot of those genetic traits are those genetic disorders that are sex-linked. You need 2 copies of that, of the mutation. And females have the option, they have 2 X's. So if only 1 X has the mutation on that, then they're fine. But guys, if our mother passes that on to us, then we have it, right? Every colorblind male has a biological mother that either is a carrier or is colorblind herself. Yeah, I'm not sure what about the score ranges. I would really like to think that they're going to be better this year than what they have been in the past. Let's see. Can you just answer this about water potential? Would a hypotonic environment have a higher water potential than inside of a cell in that environment? Yes. Yes, the hypotonic environment has a higher water potential. Do you think we'll need to know anything about the cyclic AMP? I don't think that you would necessarily have to describe cyclic AMP. That's not to say that you might not see some sort of cell communication being modeled, and then you have to go in and explain the model. Not necessarily the content, but they may just say like, okay, there's five steps that are labeled in this model. If we eliminate step 3, what does it do to the model? I mean, it could be on cyclic AMP and all that stuff. So that's what I would think. Okay, so what is allosteric dominant versus? So I think that you meant autonomic. So dominant and recessive. So you have autosomes and you have sex chromosomes. So autosomes are your pairs 1 through 22, and your sex chromosomes are the last pair, the 23rd pair. And guys have XY and ladies have XX. So the difference is, like, if the gene is on an autosome, right? Like cystic fibrosis is on an autosome, then your rules of homozygous dominant, heterozygous, and homozygous recessive still apply, right? But if it's sex-linked, then there's more genotypes. You don't just get the 3. There's more genotypes because you have to take into consideration the genotypes if it's a female, and then genotypes if it's male. So you're just going to have more, right? You're going to have a normal female. So like colorblindness, you're going to have regular X, that's a non-colorblind female. It's a normal female. Then you might have a carrier female, which is a normal X, mutated X, or X with the mutation. Then a colorblind female would be both X's have the mutation. So there's 3 genotypes already. So then we haven't even talked about the male yet. So you have the colorblind male, and then you have the normal male, depending on which X they got. So you just went from 3 different genotypes in a normal Mendelian autosomal inheritance to now 5, right? So that's the difference between like autosomal inheritance and, I said autonomic earlier, so sorry. So autosomal versus sex-linked. Is there a difference if they ask out of all the offspring or out of all the males in Punnett squares? So what you'll need, so if they say like, what is the phenotypic ratio or the genotypic ratio, you got to be very careful on those questions that it says what percent, or like what's the ratio of normal males to unnormal or abnormal males, right? At that point, when you look at the Punnett square, you're only looking at the males, right? So that's a really good question. Earlier in the session, you said we need to write the exact vocab. What do you recommend for that? It's very likely that describing is easier than writing the exact word or definition sometimes. So I think that in biology, if you describe something, you don't necessarily always have to like name that. If they ever say like you have to use this word, it's going to be glaringly obvious. There's only one term you could have said, and so I actually wouldn't worry about that too much. The tyrosine kinase is the same thing with the cyclic AMP. I think that if you saw that, you're going to see that on like a model that you're going to have to like refine the model or explain it. I don't think you're going to have. That's what I'm predicting for that. So let's see. Let's see. For example, if we write the chromosomes are more than sets of 2 and do not write aneuploidy. Yes, you should still get points. Yes. Unless they really fully ask you, which they most likely will not, they ask you what that's called, which they probably won't. Like if you put aneuploidy or you put like you described aneuploidy, then they're going to give you the points. Yep. Absolutely. Cool. I definitely wanted to, because of all the technical issues, I definitely wanted to stay on with you as long as that I could. I actually, here in a few minutes, I actually do have a hard stop. I've got another meeting. So if there's any last minute questions, I'll be very glad to answer that. But unfortunately, my time is running out a little bit. You guys have asked some really great questions. Let's see. Angela has a great question. Let's look. So I see the tricks for quickly finding what kind of trait pedigrees are. So I answered that. Is there another question? Oh, can you explain the difference between laws? There it is. Can you explain the difference between laws of segregation and laws of independent assortment? Sure. Okay, so think about it. Hold on just a second. Let me see if you can see this. Okay, so if we have like big A, little a, right? That's just we're just talking about one gene there. The law of segregation tells us that during meiosis, that when you're making sperm or you're making egg, that this big A will separate from the little a to make the gametes. Okay? Now, if you were to, so if we were to have, let's say, a heterozygote, let's say big A, big B, little b, right? Now we're talking about two genes. The law of independent assortment tells us that the dominant allele has just as good a chance to be with the dominant allele for the second gene than and the recessive. And so from here, so what the law of independent assortment says that this law of segregation that applies to the A's and the law of segregation that applies to the B's don't depend on each other, right? And so that's why you end up with all different combinations of the gametes. I know this is kind of hard to see. I'm just kind of on the fly. But that's the difference between the law of segregation and the law of independent assortment. Now, the only time that the law of independent assortment doesn't hold true is if we have linked genes. So what that means is that during crossing over, during prophase 1 and meiosis, during crossing over, if those cross over together, then that will negate in some degree the law of independent assortment, right? Because those genes, if they're very close on the chromosome, then they cross over together, then you won't get, let's say, like a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio. You're going to get some that are you're going to get two of them that are much more prominent than the other two, and that tells you that you have linked genes. So, cool. All right. I hope that answered that. Do we need to know plants a little bit to write about transpiration, plasmodesmata, or specific cell cycles, spermatogenesis or oogenesis? I would be familiar with the two different types of meiosis, spermatogenesis and oogenesis. I would know plant parts in only the context of transpiration. I probably would not get so granular in like plasmodesmata, but just know that you've got root hairs, and because of diffusion, there's more water outside the soil than there is inside the root hair. So therefore, water just comes up, and water molecules hold on to each other because of hydrogen bonding, and so therefore, that's going to go up the xylem, and it's going to find that stomata on the leaf. There's less water on the outside of the leaf than there is on the inside of the leaf. So if it's really, really dry outside, if it's really, really windy, then your transpiration rate's gonna increase because it's drier on the outside. And so you get this steady stream. If it's a really, really dry day and those stomata are open where the water vapor can escape the leaf, you really do have like the steady stream of taking water from the soil, going all the way up, and it's just going out of that stomata, and you're losing water. It's the reason why a maple tree that has its stomata open all day long cannot survive in the desert. You need to be a chem-photosynthetic plant like a cactus, because those stomata are closed all day and they're open all night, so they don't lose any water. So that's what I would think. Do we need to know anatomy of humans and animals? You do not. You do not. They took human body systems out of the curriculum. Let's see. Does the offspring only receive one copy of the mitochondrial and chloroplast gene, homozygous, as opposed to regular inheritance where offspring get two copies, one from the mom, one from the dad? And also, what does wild type mean? Wild type just means what's normally seen. What's normally seen. So like polydactyly, having more than 5 fingers on a hand is dominant, right? Achondroplasia, what the guy on Game of Thrones has, where they have a normal torso, but they have short limbs. That's also dominant. So it's not just what you, but so like the wild type is just what's most prevalent. Yeah. So yeah, and I you know what, I wouldn't worry. What I would do there's certain parts of AP biology that's just confusing for all of us, and it just doesn't click the first or second time. What I would do is if I were you, Angela, I would go to I'd go to bozemanscience.com. I'd watch some videos of Paul Anderson explaining that. I would go to Khan Academy and I would just go through I'd watch some of those videos. They have like some tutorials, some animations, some questions. You can test your knowledge. So I would do that. And just like you can, like, the most important thing is you've identified the thing that you need the most help on at this point, and that's the first thing, right? At this point, with like 9 days left, you can't study everything. So it's like, okay, I know that I need a little extra help in genetics. I'm gonna go get that. So yeah, wild type's the opposite of mutant, right? Yep. All right. Thank you guys so much. I've got to take off. But I really, really appreciate all the questions, and I appreciate you guys letting me hang out with y'all for a little bit. Thanks, everybody.